KDKA-TV.
And a very good morning to you. Thanks for spending part of this 4th of July weekend with us. The Japanese car airbag manufacturer Takata, facing mounting legal problems because of the faulty product it has produced, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection this past week. It's just the latest chapter in a story that includes accidents, injuries, and deaths, product recalls, and a growing number of lawsuits. Takata's chairman bowed deeply and apologized from the bottom of his heart, he said, as his company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in both Japan and the United States on Monday.
Takata has had problems with its airbags, and there's been a massive recall of their airbags.
Takata's faulty airbags were recalled after evidence that some would explode on impact, sending shrapnel into victims, injuring instead of saving them.
Takata is having trouble because it can't pay for all of the costs of the airbag recalls.
Michael Shiner is a bankruptcy attorney with 20 years experience, including international bankruptcies like this one. As usual, he says, it comes down to money, where Takata's principal creditors, according to court documents, are all primarily auto manufacturers to whom it owes replacement airbags.
What this bankruptcy is really about is ultimately who's going to bear the cost of these recalls.
The cost of replacing the tens of millions of Takata airbags still in vehicles around the world is estimated at $5 billion. And only 35% of effective cars have had new airbags installed. But even if Takata gets off the hook for paying the cost of new airbags, consumers, says Shiner, should be okay.
As consumers, it's your auto manufacturer's obligation to fix any defects with your vehicle, regardless of who's responsible for that defect.
So if Takata can't pay, your car manufacturer will. Now, Takata recalled its airbags worldwide after it was determined that they could explode with too much force, sending shrapnel flying into passengers. At least 16 deaths have been linked to the Takata product. So what about car owners who have lawsuits pending and others who are wondering what they can do to be compensated for a faulty product, injury, and even death? We welcome Edwin Kilpela Jr. to this program. He's a partner at Carlson Lynch, Sweet, Kilpela & Carpenter, where one of his specialties is product liability cases. Ed, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Nice to be here, John. Thank you.
You at one time represented someone suing Takata, is that right?
We did, John. We represented an individual who owned a car that had one of the faulty airbags installed and was seeking damages because of the installation of that faulty product.
So you're the perfect person to talk to about exactly what is up with consumers, car owners, because as we just reported, only 35% of cars have had this airbag replaced. That leaves a heck of a lot of cars out there that could cause injury, that could cause death, and that certainly need to be replaced. Is it true the manufacturer is responsible one way or the other?
The manufacturer is responsible, John, for installing a part like this in one of their products. And in fact, the lead counsel for the consumers in this case came out yesterday and assured the consumers that have bought these cars that they will be taken care of. And in fact, I think 4 of the manufacturers have settled the claims for approximately $500 million already in a court case that's pending in Florida.
Well, how do they really know, Ed? Because at this stage, there could be cars out there, 65% of cars that still have a Takata airbag. Something could go wrong 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, and the bankruptcy might be all over. Will there be money set aside? How's this going to work?
There will be money set aside. I believe it was announced when Takata filed for bankruptcy that preliminarily $125 million will be placed into a fund to compensate injured victims as a result of the faulty airbags. But that number could, of course, be increased during the pendency of the bankruptcy, which is just starting, and we won't know the answer to that for a while.
It's really, that seems like a drop in the bucket if we're talking about $5 billion worth of potential liability out there. In a case like this, where there is a bankruptcy, are consumers protected one way or the other?
They are, and I think it's important to note that Takata, while going through bankruptcy, has committed to keeping a production facility open to manufacture replacement airbags until all of the recall work is done. So even though Takata is declaring bankruptcy and liquidating the company, the small portion of the company that is replacing the airbags, based on the announcement that Takata made this past week, will remain open in manufacturing airbags for these cars.
And it's also true, and you're the expert on this, but it's also true that it's the manufacturer. It's the Chryslers, the Fords, the General Motors, the Hondas, the Toyotas. These are the folks who actually decided to hire Takata to use a Takata product in their car, in their vehicle. And so that puts them on the hook as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And even more so in a case like this where there is evidence, apparently based on the documents that have been filed, that these manufacturers had some notice that there might be a defect and then still decided to put these products in their cars because of the cost savings associated with it. So in a case like this, the manufacturer are even more on the hook than they might have been otherwise.
Are there, this bankruptcy will not settle some pending lawsuits, or will it settle pending lawsuits against the manufacturers and Takata?
I'm not sure how it will work. There is a mechanism for the people that have filed lawsuits to become part of the bankruptcy proceedings as unsecured creditors, so they will still have a live claim against Takata, I would believe, if they chose to proceed that way.
Yeah. Now, if you're a car owner out there, Ed, and you know that you have, or you think you might have a Takata airbag, but you haven't gotten the recall notice, I think that's the other thing we should make clear, is that because there are so many airbags out there, and so many vehicles out there with Takata airbags, the manufacturers simply don't have the product to replace them as quickly as some of us might like. And so there's a long schedule of replacement through 2020, I believe.
Yes.
But that really opens everybody up to risk. If you are a consumer and you have a Takata airbag, or you think you have a Takata airbag, do you have a right to go to the manufacturer and say, replace it now, I don't want my family at risk for another day?
You should do that. The reality is that might be difficult to have happen because of the limited amount of replacement airbags available. What you should do immediately, though, is contact the manufacturer of your vehicle at a dealership or probably on a website most manufacturers have put out to see if your car is affected.
Right.
Absolutely.
And if it is affected, let your dealer know that you want it replaced as fast as possible.
Absolutely. And make sure you get that done as quickly as possible, because I think just this past week, another confirmed death as a result of these airbags happened.
And I'm sure, Ed, we're going to hear a whole lot more of that in certainly the days, months ahead. Ed Kilpela, thank you, sir, very much for coming in and sharing your knowledge with us. We much appreciate it on the Sunday Business Page. Thank you again. When the Sunday Business Page continues, the mounting cost of a college education. What can families do ahead of time to plan for this huge